Guys, welcome to this video. I just wanted to show you really quick a kind of slip stitch starting method for casting on stitches for crocheting a scrunchie. And this is featured in all three of these scrunchies that I'm about to show you in my pattern pack available on my Etsy shop. This one is a double crochet, single crochet, and then this one is a nice treble stitch. My hair's dyed purple at the moment. You can see these scrunchies are a bit stained from me wearing them. But I'm going to show you on this scrunchie with a lot more basic of a stitch pattern how I'm going to create my foundation starting row. So kind of how I hold this, I hold my working yarn between these two fingers. I make sure that my tail's out of the way. I find that if you stitch over the tail, as you stretch out the scrunchie, it gets bunched up in between your stitches. So I like to weave it into this first row of stitches later on after I'm done, which I'll show you towards the end of the scrunchie. So with my thumbs, I'm kind of putting a little bit of pressure or stretch into this hair tie, keeping this working yarn out of the way, kind of where it's supposed to be, and now I'll show you how I go about getting a stitch on here. So you're going to bring your hook under your hair tie, you're going to pull up around with that working yarn. And now what I like to do is kind of keep my finger here to keep these stitches in place. I'm just going to yarn over with that working yarn and pull through both of my stitches, and essentially we're just working slip stitches around. And then I'm just kind of going to push it down, squish it so there's a lot of stitches packed on here. I'm not sure how many I'm going to end up with this specific gauge. All that information will be in the pattern. But as always, you're welcome to amend it to your liking. If you want to add more or less stitches, the more stitches that are on there is going to correspond to a rufflier, fluffy scrunchie. So this first one has a decent amount of stitches, but this one has a lot more stitches packed in there. And all that information, like I said, will be in the pattern. And then I'm just going to continue walking you through. I'm going to add a few more stitches on here, just so you guys can watch this process. Work along with me if you want to, kind of get the hang of it. There's a lot of muscle memory that goes into this, and that is totally fine. Just takes a little practice. Try and stay in frame here. And if you're wondering, this is the Yarn Bee Urban Chic yarn. I just made a tank top out of it as well. That pattern is also on my Etsy, so I'm making a matching scrunchie. And I really like it. It's a blend of acrylic and cotton. It was only $5.49 a skein, so not too bad. And it has a really interesting texture to it, and it is variegated, which I always go for the self-striping and variegated yarns. Those are my favorites. Only got part of the yarn in there. Okay. And always just making sure that you are squishing those stitches together. If it's super stretched out like this, you don't really want to be seeing too much of your hairband coming through. So to fix that, I'm just going to pull on my hair tie and squish all those stitches down together. And keeping in mind as well, I'm just trying to keep them fairly evenly spaced, and we will be increasing in the next rows to build our scrunchie out even more and even fluffier. So you don't need to squish too many stitches on there, but just enough so that when you're stretching the band and it's in your hair, you're not going to see the hair elastic through it, because that would not be cute. Awesome. Once you get the hang of this, I'm going to go ahead, finish up the scrunchie, and then at the end of the video, I will show you how I'm going to deal with these loose ends and work on weaving them in so that you get a really seamless looking scrunchie. Alright, I've just finished my scrunchie. Couple of notes. I don't recommend using a hook as small as this. This is a 3.75. With the category 3, I think it's just a little too tight. I will give my gauge with this yarn, of course, in the hook if you want to make it exactly the same, but I would recommend this category 3 going up to a 4 or 4.5. With the scrunchie, you do want a little more stretch. And also, I ran out of my pink, of course, for these very last few stitches here. Now, if this were something like a sweater or a shirt where there's a clear right and wrong side, I could just show you how to weave this into the back on the wrong side row, and then you wouldn't even see it. But it's a scrunchie, so if I start weaving in this gray color over the pink, you're gonna see it and it's not gonna be cute. So I'm gonna show you how to kind of troubleshoot this guy and weave it in just within these gray stitches, and then the pink will be pretty straightforward. The pink can go pretty much anywhere else. Of course, I've managed to lose all of my tapestry needles as well, so I will be showing you how to weave in with just a crochet hook, which is something I have to do a lot, because I'm sure we all know tapestry needles are very hard to hold on to. Like I said at the beginning, we're not going to go into these base stitches to weave in. That's why we didn't weave in with the tail, because when you stretch it out, it's just going to bunch up on that tail and create bumps in your scrunchie, and that's not ideal. So doesn't really matter right side or wrong side on a scrunchie, you're going to see both in your hair. So I'm just going to kind of work my way through and find kind of these back loops of these single crochets to work through. So let's see, my thread's coming out right there. Kind of wants to go this direction, so I'm just going to roll with that and start picking up the backs of these stitches. And then once I get into a stitch, sometimes it is a bit harder, so I actually yarn over this way and pull through just like I would go through a stitch. This is pretty long. You could definitely trim it down if you wanted to. Yeah, that's definitely up to you how you want to work them in there. And then if you had a tapestry needle, yarn needle, you would just weave this through the eye of the needle and then essentially just do exactly what I'm doing, pull it through pretty much anywhere that you can. I'll have to be more careful with the gray color, but because this is all one color, it doesn't really matter if you can see it through on the other side, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to keep going like that. I'm probably going to try and keep them a little bit closer together than these, because if you stretch on this scrunchie, that'll happen. So I think I'm going to take these out and weave them in a bit closer together. But I'm just going to keep going along with just how I was doing those ones. There's a stitch I'm going to go through, back of a stitch, and I'll meet you back in a sec. So I just wanted to show you, I just snipped off my loose end right here, and then what I do is just give it a little stretch, and it'll work. That'll kind of pull it back a little bit into the work, and then that end will be hidden. Now we're going to work on this guy, which is a problem that has just now occurred to me because I've never made a variegated yarn scrunchie before. So I'm just going to pick, if you like, you can just kind of weave it back through along these top stitches, or you can work back through these loops along here. A few different options. I'm probably going to opt for looping it through the tops of the stitches and then just trimming it. I think that'll be easiest for me. And so I'm just going through the stitch, pull it through. I'm not going through the whole top of the stitch, I'm kind of going through the middle of the stitch and just weaving it through. This isn't ideal, but that's what I ended up with this project, and I'm excited to wear it with the tank that I made out of this yarn. This is a great scrap yarn project if you have some left over. With this tank top in particular, I ran out and had to buy a whole new skein just to make the straps of this tank top. So I have a decent amount of yarn left, so I might be making some more scrunchies in like all of the different variegations. That's one of my favorite things to do if I have a bunch of leftover yarn on a variegated project, is you can cut out specific like sections of the yarn. Like the next one I might take only gray yarn and just kind of work, and then if I want to get a different color of the variegation, and then make all different scrunchies and all the different variegations of that yarn. Cool. So I am comfortable with that. I'm just going to snip off my strand, and there you have it. This is one of the scrunchies in my scrunchie pattern pack. Where'd my other two go here? I have this one, which is a nice kind of topped off double crochet, and then that treble one that I showed earlier. Like I said, these are available in my Etsy, my Ravelry shop. I'll link the patterns down below. I also have some listed on Ribbler as well, and they're all under the name PurplePoppyFiberArts. I have some other projects up there too you can work on. There's a couple sweaters, some hats coming. So yeah, these are a great summer project. Make them to match all of your different projects that you're making. Tank tops, sweaters. We'll see you next time.